this next real estate problem. Okay, can you guys see that?
Can you raise it a little bit? Perfect.
Yeah, and I'll bring it down a little later too. All right. Whew. This sheltering in place is exhausting.
We're doing the commercial real estate development one.
Yeah. So this one I modeled after. I believe this one is. I think this one's Mission. Oh no, this one's Salesforce Tower. Has anybody been over to Salesforce Tower?
No, I haven't.
It's on the corner of a Mission and First Street. It's bounded by Mission, Howard, First, and Fremont. It's basically the office building that sits on top of the Transbay Terminal in San Francisco. It's the tallest building in San Francisco. It was built by Boston Properties, and the largest tenant in there is Salesforce. And actually, Salesforce owns the property across the street on Fremont and Mission, and they bought the building across the street from that, and they just bought another building right down from there. So they have about I don't know, maybe almost 4 million square feet within a block of each other.
That's a lot for San Francisco.
No, 4 million square feet within basically, seriously, like 50 yards from each other.
Wow.
Yeah,
Sounds like they're doing well.
Yeah, it took them about 10 years to assemble the parcels.
We can't hear you when you walk that far away. Sorry.
It took them about 10 years to assemble the real estate.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. If you ever have a chance to go over there, it's totally state of the art, and it was delivered, I think, like 2 years ago. And what's funny is it's like a 1 million square feet building, but you go to New York, they have like 2, 3, 4 million square feet buildings. It's completely different in Chicago and in New York. It's completely different. Okay. So let's do this. So it's Salesforce Tower. It's a development. It's 1 million square feet, 52 stories. What we're going to do is we're going to underwrite it and see if we should develop it. Is the question. All right. So, what's the first model we're going to use?
Perpetuity?
Yeah. Got it. And do they give us any cash flow metrics?
This is for letter C, correct?
This is page 3. Yes.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Page 3.
Yeah, I think I have it as B, but it's C. Yeah, it's page 3. So what's the cash flow metric we're going to use? What cash flow are we going to use to value the property?
Is it the 100 per square foot?
We're going to use that later. Do they give us anything else? Do they give us any other cash flows?
I see the expected growth rates for cash flows.
Yeah, but isn't there another cash flow in there? What are the cash flows?
There's the rent for 100 million.
Yeah, we got that. We'll use the gross potential rental income later when we do the multiple approach.
Is it the NOI?
Yeah, exactly. So do we use last year, this year, or next year's NOI?
Last year.
Yeah.
Last year, this year, or next year?
Last year?
Do you use last year, this year, or next year's?
Next year.
Yeah.
Got it. So do you have this year's NOI?
Yeah.
And what is it?
75 million.
Got it. Okay. Oops. How do I get next year? Do you guys have any notes from last week or a month ago?
Yeah.
Or-
Flipping back and forth between them.
So how do I calculate next year's cash flow from this year's cash flow?
We multiply it.
By growth rate?
Which one?
Terminal growth rate.
What is it?
With the terminal.
Percent.
Oh,
The what percent?
I said 12 for the first year's cash
Yes.
flow growth rate.
Yep. So what's the math? What's the equation? How do I grow it out?
Is it 75 times 1.12?
Yes. And what does that give you?
$84 million.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do I do with that?
Divide it.
By what's the discount rate we're going to use?
By the 2%.
That's the terminal growth rate.
Would you divide it by 0.1?
0.1. Where do you get 0.1?
The 10%.
Where's the 10%?
For-
That's year 2 growth rate.
Yeah. I don't
What's
know.
the discount rate we're going to use?
We go from the rate of return.
Yeah. What is it?
And the terminal or the go.
Well,
Well,
what do we use the terminal discount rate for?
The last year.
Yeah, to get the terminal value. So what do we use as the discount rate?
11%.
Okay, and what do I divide 84 million by?
At 0.11.
What does that give you?
Lots of numbers. 763,636,000.
Yeah, we can just round it. 764.
Okay.
Got it. Okay, what's the next model?
Gordon growth.
Yep, and then how do I calculate it? What do I need?
Golden growth, don't we take that same 84 million?
Yep. And what do I divide that by?
11 minus something.
With the 5? Go ahead.
Like that?
Maybe 0.05?
What?
0.05?
Yeah, well, if they're both percentages, and 0.11 minus 0.05.
And what does that give you?
0.06.
And what's 84 million divided by 0.06?
1,400.
Okay. What's the next? What's the next one? Yeah, the multiple.
Multiple approach. Yeah.
This one's a little bit different. This one's a little bit different. Do they give us the gross potential rental income?
Yes. 150 million.
How much is it?
150 million.
No, gross potential rental income is 1 million square feet times $100 per square foot full service rent. Right?
So 100 times a million?
Yeah, and how much is that?
100 million?
Yep. And then do they give you a growth rate to get next year's? Could you use the 12%?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's use the 12%.
Oh. Oops.
Okay, and what's 100 million times 1.12?
112 million?
And then do they give us any gross rent multipliers?
Yeah, 20x, 22x, and 24x.
What is it? 24, 22, and 20?
Yes.
And then these are called gross rent multipliers. Or they're also called GRMs. And GRMs are the sales price divided by the gross potential rental income. So what we did was we found three comps, three comparables that had just sold in the marketplace. We knew what the recorded sales prices were because we found them from the county recorder's office, and we talked to people in the industry that knew about the transaction and what it closed at, and we estimated what the gross potential rental income was for the property, and we got the gross rent multipliers for each of the buildings, and we can now apply them to our building to come up with the estimated value using a gross rent multiplier approach, or the multiple approach. So what's 112 million times 24?
$448. I think that's wrong. Hold on.
Not the 112 million?
Times 24 is 2,688,000,000.
That's what I got as well.
So basically 2.7 billion. Okay, and then what is 112 million times 22?
2.464 billion.
Let's just round it. So 2.46. Okay. And what's 112 million times 20?
2.24 billion.
Now, where's the market? Let's say we're underwriting this right now. Where is the real estate market cycle, investment cycle today?
Is it low?
Yeah, are people snapping up buildings right and left, or are rents spiking? You know, is it a healthy demand, or what's the condition of the capital markets and the economy right now?
I'm pretty sure we're on. We peaked, and we're about to hit the downward trend, basically.
Yeah. So would you?
Top right corner.
Yeah. So would you use a 24 multiple, a 22, or a 20?
20.
Yeah, probably a 20. Yep.
When would you use a 22?
Well, it would probably be a midpoint, estimate. This is probably a good market. This is probably where we're going. And then if you thought that we were somewhere in between a declining market and a peaking market, you would take a midpoint estimate.
Okay.
But
Cool.
based on the analyst or the acquisition officer's estimates, you already know that the market's peaked out, and it's probably falling pretty quickly, which means that the occupancy rates are probably going to go down, the sales prices are probably going to go down, the gross rental income's probably going to go down. So to be conservative, we would probably use a 20 as opposed to a 24 or 22. Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. So 2.24, 1.4, and 764 million. So write those down so that we can put those in our model later on so that we can figure out if we're going to build this thing or not. And then you may want to pick the 20 just to be conservative. Did you guys get that? Did you get all that stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what's the next model we're going to use?
Discounted cash flow?
Is what? Yeah.
Net of cash flow.
Yeah, the DCF.
Number back up a little bit.
Yeah,
Thank you.
no, thank you.
Professor, for the gross rent multipliers,
Yeah.
how do we come up with, I mean, I know it's on our paper, but is 2022 and 24 the standard, or?
No, it really depends on the where we are in the market cycle, capital markets, the location of the building, the age of the building, the size of the building, the year it was built, the quality of the tenants that are in the building. All of those factors would determine the gross rent multipliers. It's basically the gross rent multipliers are like the price to earnings ratios, the PE multiples.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So there, when you're analyzing stocks, you're using price to earnings or price to FFO for REITs. In the real estate market, you apply the multiple approach using gross rent multipliers, which is the sales price divided by the gross potential rental income.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because you might be in a meeting and there could be somebody who's talking about this stuff and you want to be able to follow along. All right, so what are we trying to calculate using the DCF model? What's our objective? What are we trying? Go ahead, Michaela.
Terminal value?
The what?
The terminal value?
No, that's down there.
The present value?
Yeah.
Oh.
Got it. Okay. And then what do we need to know to do the DCF?
A hold of 5 years.
Yeah, so we need the holding period. And how many, if it's, our holding period's 5 years, how many cash flows do we need?
6.
Got it. And the 6 years used to calculate what?
The terminal value.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. And then do we know what the first year NOI is?
Yes.
What is it?
75 million?
Is that right?
Or is that?
That's this year's. I want next
It's
year.
84 million.
Okay, and how do I get year 2?
Multiply it by 1.1. 1.1.
Got it. And what's 84 million times 1.1?
$92.4.
92.4? Got it. And then how do I get year 3?
Multiplied by 1.21.
Oh, is it 1.08?
It looks like 1.08. Where'd you get the 1.21? So what's 92? What's 92.4 times 1.08?
99.792 million.
99.7. So 99.8.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then how do I get year 4?
Times it by 1.06.
Okay. And then what's 99.8 times 1.06?
105.78.
So 105 times 105.8.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And then how do I get year 5?
Times it by 1.04.
Okay. And then what's 105.8 times 1.04?
110.
110.
Then how do I get year 6, and what do we use year 6 for?
The terminal value,
Got it. And then what do I multiply it by?
1.02.
Okay. And then what's 110 times 1.02?
112.2.
112.2. Got it. All right. And then how do we calculate the terminal value?
Then we take the two percentages and we subtract them by each other.
Yeah. So what do I use as the terminal discount rate? What was the discount rate that we used for the perpetuity and the Gordon growth?
11%.
And what's the terminal discount rate?
13%.
So what would I divide this by?
So 0.13 minus 0.02.
Say that again?
0.13 minus 0.02.
Like that?
Those are the two terminal rates.
Yeah, that's right. So that's the terminal discount rate, and that's the terminal growth rate.
Yes.
So what do we get, 0.11?
Correct.
So what's our terminal value? We take 112.2 divided by 0.11.
1,020,000,000.1.
1,020,000,000. 1,200 and what million?
1020.1.
1020.1.
Yep.
Like that? In millions? Got it. Okay, now what do we do?
Now we need to divide each one.
By, what's it called? What do we divide the cash flows by? What are these called? What are these called? Do you remember? Discount.
So
What?
the going in rate.
Yeah, that's the going in discount rate. But these are called discount. What? It starts with an F. It's
So, formula.
their discount, and it starts with an F.
Factors.
Yep. Great. And then what's the first discount factor for year 1?
1.11.
So 1.11. Do I raise it to anything?
For the first
One.
one.
Yeah. And what's 1.11 to the 1?
1.11.
Got it. And what's that one?
1.11 to the second power.
Got it. And what's that?
Same thing to the third power.
And that one?
same thing to the fourth and the fifth.
And what's 1.11 squared?
$1.23.
And what's 1.11 cubed?
1.37.
And what's 1.11 to fourth?
1.52.
And what's 1.11 to the fifth?
1.69.
Got it. And then what do I divide the terminal discount rate by?
1.69.
Got it. So what is 1020.1 divided by 1.69?
$603.6.
Okay. And then what is 84 million divided by 1.11?
75 million.7 or 75.7.
75.7.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what is 92.4 divided by 1.23?
75.1.
What did you say? 75.1? Is that what you said? 75.1?
Yeah.
And what's 99.8 divided by 1.37?
72.8.
Are you guys checking these numbers?
Yes.
Yeah, he's right.
Yeah, he's correct.
Okay. And then what is 105.8 divided by 1.52?
9.6.
What is it?
69.6.
Okay. And then what's 110 divided by 1.69?
65.1.
And then what is 603.6 plus 65.1 plus 69.6 plus 72.8 plus 75.1 plus 75.7?
Or 961.9.
961.9.
I haven't double that.
She's correct.
Okay. So what was the perpetuity? What was the value?
764 million.
And what was the Gordon growth?
1.4 billion.
And what was the gross rent multiplier?
2.24 billion.
And what was the DCF?
961.9 million.
So how much is the building worth?
Well, take into account the multiple approach and the discount cash flow more than the other two, correct?
Say that again?
We take into account the multiple approach and the discounted cash flow more so than the other two.
Yeah, what's the assumption about the perpetuity?
It's conservative.
Yeah, it's conservative, and what do you assume about future cash flows?
They could be higher.
Do they remain flat forever or grow at a constant rate?
Grow at a constant rate.
So if I take the NOI for t plus 1 and divide it by some discount rate to get the value using the perpetuity model, you're telling me that the cash flow grows at a constant rate under the perpetuity?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yeah, here's the perpetuity model right here. Basically, next year's NOI divided by the discount rate gives me the value of the perpetuity. Where in this model do you see the cash flows growing at a constant rate?
Not at a constant rate, but maybe changing, like always changing.
Well, do they remain flat forever or grow at a constant rate?
They grow.
Show me in this model where the cash flows grow at a constant rate.
The present value, no?
Show me how do you get the cash flows to grow at a constant rate with that model?
Yes, you don't.
You don't. So what model do you use when you assume that the cash flows are going to grow at a constant rate?
Gordon growth.
Now, would you assume that cash flows for real estate would grow at a constant rate?
No.
Have we ever not had, I mean, over the last 60 years, what has been the average inflation rate?
2%.
2%?
Yeah, I think so.
And in these commercial leases, they have consumer price index or CPI adjustments. So what if the leases basically are indexed to the inflation rate, then what would be the average growth rate in the cash flows over time using long-term inflation? What's been the long-term inflation rate?
2%?
2%. And if the leases, the rental income is indexed to the inflation rate, what rate do the cash flows grow at?
2%.
Got it.
2%.
Got it. So, what model would you use?
For what?
To value the property assuming that the cash flows are going to grow at a constant rate?
Isn't the Gordon growth the constant rate?
Correct. And if inflation has averaged 2% per year over the last 60 years, wouldn't the Gordon growth model be more accurate than the perpetuity?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the Gordon growth model has some information in it, correct? Correct?
Yes.
Yep. All right. And what about the gross rent multiplier approach? What does that tell you?
That took into consideration the downfall.
Well, weren't people still willing to pay 20 times gross potential rental income?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not a downturn. It might be a correction, but there's still value in the building, right?
It basically deals with the growth rental income multiple and the gross potential rental income.
Yeah, so what's the GRM? What's the equation?
Sales price over gross potential income.
Yeah, so if the sales prices go up, what happens to the gross rent multiplier?
It goes up.
And if you're using sales prices, what does that tell you about the valuation?
Current.
Yeah, it's current. And would it tell you what people are willing to pay today? I mean, wouldn't that tell you if you have three comps? You know, one at what was the gross rent multipliers? They were
22, 24.
yeah. So people are willing to pay 20, 22, and 24 for the gross potential rental income for the building. What does that tell you about the value of the building? Would the multiple approach be a valuable valuation technique if that's what people are willing to pay? If I can, let's say I want to sell my car, okay, and I think my car's worth $3,000, but everybody's willing to pay $10,000 for the car. Are you still going to sell it for $3,000?
No.
You're going to sell it for how much?
10,000.
Yeah, you're going to sell it for $10,000. So if people are willing to pay $2.24 billion for that building, what valuation method is the most accurate? The one where you think the value is, or the one where people are actually willing to pay for it?
People are willing to pay for it.
Got it. So what valuation method is the most important?
Multiple approach.
Got it. And if people are willing to pay $2.24 billion for this building, what's wrong with the DCF model?
Really low.
And why? Where did you make your mistakes? What is the market? What does the market assume that you're not assuming? How would you get this present value up? What would you need to do to get the present value up to this value? What would you need to do to the assumptions? Where is the first place you probably made your mistake?
The discount rate?
Yeah, you might be asking, you might be requiring too high of an expected return. Maybe the risk on the building, maybe the risk, you're overestimating the risk and your discount rate is too high. Yeah, maybe. Where's the other place you could have made your mistake?
Growth rate?
Yep. So did I over or underestimate the discount rate?
Overestimated?
Got it. And what did I do? Did I over or underestimate the
Growth rate?
pro forma growth rates? Did I over or underestimate the pro forma? What?
Underestimated?
What? I can't say that again.
Underestimated?
Yeah, I underestimated it. So what is the market telling you about expected returns and rental growth rates on this building?
But it's,
Too low?
yeah.
They're telling you that the rental growth rates are too
High. Well, I said low at first. I'm pretty sure it's low, right? So they make it bigger.
well. You tell me. If I increase the rental growth rates, what happens to the present value?
Increases.
Got it. And if I lower the discount rates, what happens to the present value? If I lower the discount rates, what happens to the present value? If I lower the denominator, if I lower the discount rates, what happens to the present value?
Gets lower.
If I lower the discount rates, the denominator, what happens to the present value? If I lower the discount rates, the denominator, what happens to the present value? If I lower the discount rate, the denominator, if I lower it, what happens to the present value?
Your present value gets smaller.
If I lower the
No,
discount
it gets higher.
Thank you, Nicole.
That's what I was saying.
Did I just mix up numerator and denominator?
Yeah. So let's do it again so that everybody understands. The market is pricing the building at $2.24 billion. We've got 1.4 on the Gordon growth, which is a very simplistic model, but it assumes that the cash flows are going to grow at a constant rate, so there's information there. But our DCF is way off. Where did we make our mistakes? What is the market telling you?
Well, if we go off of the discount and the growth rate that we use, it's saying that it's not worth as much as it is.
Yes, but the market's willing to pay more.
Yes.
So what is it telling you about your growth rate assumptions?
That they were too low.
Got it. And what are they telling you about your expected return assumptions?
That they're too high.
Exactly. So what's the value of the building?
2.24 million.
And if you were to go back and rerun the discounted cash flow model, what adjustments would you make?
I would make the discount rate lower and the growth rate higher.
Exactly. Okay. All right. That was a fun exercise. But that's the way you got to be thinking. Okay. All right. So how much is it going to cost for us to build this thing?
$1.5 billion.
Okay.
Yep.
And if I subtract 1,500 million from the 2,240 million, if I subtract that, what do I get? What's the number and what am I calculating?
You're calculating profits, I want to say, or income.
No. No. What's it called? When I subtract out the value of the building by the development cost. Didn't we do that on page 1?
The net present value?
Got it. So we're going to calculate the net present value. Also known as the NPV. Got it. And what's our net present value?
740 million.
How much?
740 million.
Is it positive or negative?
Positive.
Would you accept or reject it?
Accept.
Got it. Okay. Do you guys get it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
But let's say let's say that the gross rent multiplier gives us 1,240,000,000. What's the net present value?
What was that number?
What if the instead of 2,240,000,000 for the gross rent multiplier, we got 1,240,000,000.
Negative 260. Don't accept.
Got it. Would we accept or reject?
Reject.
Got it. What if we really want to do this project? What would we do?
Buy it for a smaller amount.
Yeah, we would build it for less. All right. What would be the first thing that we do if I went to the board? I said, hey, I'm sorry, we're getting a negative net present value. We think we should reject the development. The board says no. I think you need to go back and do what?
Renegotiate the sales price.
Yeah, you'd go back and renegotiate probably the construction cost contracts, the material contracts, the labor contracts, the infrastructure costs, the land costs. You'd go back and renegotiate all the costs. And what do you need to reduce the cost by to make this thing work?
The growth rate?
Is it the difference?
What is it?
Is it 260 mil?
So if I can reduce the cost by 260 million, what's my net present value?
0.
And would I accept or reject it?
Accept.
Got it. And if I couldn't get a cost reduction and I still get a negative net present value, and I go back to the board and I say, we can't get the price reduction, we still have a negative net present value, we think you should reject it, and the board says, no, we really want to do this development, you need to go back and do what?
Would you recalculate the multiplier?
Yeah, what would I do under iteration 3? So do what, Michaela?
Review assumptions.
Yeah, you go back and review your assumptions, and what are the assumptions we would review?
The terminal discount rate, development cost, growth rate, performance, terminal initial cash flow.
Great. Would I go back and see if there's any higher comps in the marketplaces where people were willing to buy buildings at a higher GRM?
Yeah.
Yep. And if I did all that and I still got a negative net present value, and I went back to the board and I said, we're still getting a negative net present value, we think you should reject it, and the board says no, we really think we should build this building, you need to go back and do what?
Calculate value of real option.
Yeah, you got to go back and calculate the value of the real call option. And what are the two methods that you would use to do that?
Binomial.
And what's the other one?
And time value.
What are the two methods that you would use to calculate the real call option? I'm testing to see if you wrote any notes.
Is it time value and volatility?
No, those are the factors that drive the value of the real call option. There's two models that you would use.
I have binomial, and then I have the words back.
Yeah. Black what?
So it says black.
Yeah, the binomial tree and the black what?
word I don't have written down.
Yeah, I didn't write that part down either.
Okay, you need to write it down then. It's Black Shoals.
How do you spell shoals?
Sholes.
Okay.
And what are the factors that drive value for rail call options?
Time value, volatility, management decisions, and value option.
Yeah, that's gonna drive the value of the call options. So what does the value of the real call option need to be?
Net present value.
Yeah, but what does the value of the real call option got to equal or be greater than?
The expected return? No. NPV.
Net present value.
Got it. So the value of the real call option in this case has got to be equal to what?
The NPV.
Correct. And what's the net present value in this case?
740 million was our original one.
No, this one right here.
260.
Got it. So if the value of the real call option is equal to negative 260 million, what's the net present value?
0.
And if the net present value is 0, do you accept or reject?
Accept.
Accept.
And if the value of the real call option is greater than the negative net present value, what's the net present value?
Is it positive?
And if it's positive, would you accept or reject it?
Accept.
And then if the value of the real call option is less than the negative net present value, what's your net present value?
Going to be in the negatives.
And if it's negative, would you accept or reject?
Reject.
Okay, and that's that problem. Okay. All right. All right. And I already did the investment decision making matrix, didn't I? Didn't I didn't I go over the investment decision making matrix with you?
Yeah.
Got it. So let's do the last one. So this one's Mission Bay. Do you guys know where Mission Bay is?
No.
Anybody ever been to San Francisco?
Yeah.
Fisherman's Wharf.
Good.
Can you Google it?
Mission Bay, like you mean the Mission District?
No, just look up Mission Bay and tell me what's in Mission Bay.
That's a big bay.
Looking it up. Oh, China Basin. Dog Patch. Oh, Dog Patch. Yeah.
And then what's north of Dog Patch along Army Street as you drive down? Sorry, if you drive up the Embarcadero there, 3rd Street, what do you hit? If I'm going from Dog Patch up towards the city, what do I drive through?
Financial District?
No, not before you get to the financial district.
China Basin?
There's something in between Dog Patch along 3rd Street before you get to the financial district. It's only a little thing.
Stop. Wait.
A museum.
Keep going. It's
Not
only,
Soma.
Union Square.
nope, you're too far. Along 3rd Street before you get to the financial district. In between Dog Patch and let's say
The
Townsend.
Piers.
What? That's if you're going further north.
I'm so lost.
See the dog patch on mine.
Okay, what's north of the Dog Patch? Why do people go into the South of Market? Why do people go down there? What's down there?
Oracle.
Oracle what?
Oracle Park.
Yeah, what's across Lefty O'Doul Bridge?
About the chick.
What?
Chase Center?
What is it?
Chase Center?
Yeah, and what surrounds the Chase Center?
Water?
No, there's something you're missing, and it's huge. You're only like missing like 60,000 employees and one of the biggest land developments west of the Mississippi.
Yeah, wait.
Salesforce Tower?
Nope, that's in the financial district. I'm talking about Mission Bay.
UCSF?
Bingo!
Oh, yeah.
Hello! Right? Genentech, Pfizer, Gilead, Roche, UCSF, you know, the number one life science research institution in the world. Okay. We were hired by Alexandria REIT, which is the number one life science developer in the world. They developed Mission Bay. Willie Brown brought UCSF there like 20-something years ago. And then all of the research institutions, biopharma, life science companies started to cluster around UCSF and its research and created Mission Bay. Then they built all of the student housing. They built housing. They built medical labs, medical office. And then Benioff actually bought a parcel down there. Actually, the city gave it to them to build Salesforce Tower, and Benioff laughed and spit in their face, sold the parcel to Alexandria for hundreds of millions of dollars after the city gave it to them for free, and basically they ended up building Chase Center there on the exact site where Salesforce Tower was supposed to go. All right. So we're hired, we are Easthill Secured, we're the investment bank. We were hired by Alexandria REIT to underwrite the Mission Bay development down there, and we have to figure out, should we do the development or not? Now, did they end up building Salesforce Tower?
Yeah.
Was it a good investment?
Yeah.
Did they end up building Mission Bay? Is there anybody in Mission Bay?
Any of them?
Is there anybody in Mission Bay?
Yeah.
Who's there?
USF?
Not USF.
Oh, sorry, UCSF. Excuse me.
Correct. And then what happened to all of the land around UCSF?
Got developed.
Got it. Was it a good investment?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So what's the first valuation method?
Perpetuity.
And what do we need to calculate the value? How do we calculate the value? What do we need?
NOI.
Got it. And what do we use last year, this year, or next year's?
Next year.
And what's this year's?
125.
And then how do I get next year?
You multiply it by
The 10%?
What's the growth factor?
1.1?
And then what's 125 million times 1.1?
137.5 million.
And what's the assumption in regards to the cash flows, the cash flow under the perpetuity model?
But it's conservative.
And yeah, and what do you assume about the cash flows? What are they gonna do forever?
Stay constant.
Yes, they're gonna remain flat. Got it. What's the second model?
According
What's the assumption about the cash flows under the Gordon growth model?
Constant growth.
Yep, they're gonna grow at a constant rate. So what's the cash flow that we use?
137.5 million.
Okay, and what do I divide that by?
ERR.
Wait a minute. Hold the phone. Hold the phone here. Is that the intrinsic value? I just grow out the cash flow and that's the intrinsic value? Is that the model?
No.
No.
no, but on one of my notes, I think we did that.
Did we?
I think so, because in one of my notes I have that.
What are we supposed to do?
We used the 125.
Well, no, because we divide it by the percentage.
Yeah, so what do we divide it by?
The expected rate of return,
Which is,
12%.
and what's the value?
137. Oh, a lot. 1,146 million. 1146.
Okay. And then how do we get the intrinsic value using the Gordon growth?
So then we take the 12%, so 0.12, and we subtract it from the 0.02.
And what does that give us?
0.1.
And what's the value?
The 137.5 divided by 0.1.
Okay. And what's the third model?
Multiple approach.
Here it comes.
And do they give us any multiples?
This one has a 12% expected return.
Can we calculate a multiple from that?
Is it sales price over that percentage?
Well, they don't give us any multiples. So how do we manufacture a multiple out of the 12%?
You make your own by
Maybe 12, 11, 10.
How do I? No, you got to use the 12. You got to use the 12%. So how do I make a multiple out of the 12%? You could just do the math, right? Is it 0.12 divided by 1? Is it 0.12 times 1? Is that it? Or is it 1 divided by 0.12? How do you create a multiple? What is it? do you have your notes? I think we went through this before.
I don't know if we did. I feel like all of the other ones had a multiple.
Did they?
Yeah. I don't think we've done this either.
No, I didn't calculate. Well, you tell me, which one of these equations would create a multiple?
Is that
1 divided by 12?
This one?
I don't know.
Is it 1 divided by 12 or 1 divided by 0.12?
that's 0.12.
Yeah, 0.12.
And what do you get?
8.33.
And what's 0.12 times 1?
0.12 times 1 is 0.12.
And what's 0.12 divided by 1?
0.12.
So which one is the multiple?
Seems like the 8.33.
Okay,
Sounds like a good call.
yep. Okay, and do they give you any gross potential rental income?
Yes, 150 million.
And what's 150 million times 8.33? $1,250,000,000. Okay, and we write those down. What's the next model?
Discount cash flow.
Did you say it's million or billion?
1,250,000,000.
Okay.
Or 1,250 million.
Same thing. Yeah.
All right. What's the next one?
Discounted cash flow.
Got it. Got it. And what are we trying to calculate?
Present value.
And what do we need to know?
2 years.
How many?
It's a holding period of 5, so we do the 6 years to find the terminal value.
Got it. And do we know what the first year cash flow is?
Excuse me, Professor.
Yep.
Can you move your camera slightly up? Just like a fraction. Awesome. That's perfect.
So do we use the 137.5?
Yeah, is that the is that next year's NOI?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what was it again?
Thank you.
137.5
130
million.
137.5?
Yes.
Got it. And then how do I get year 2?
Year 2 is the 8%, so the times 1.08.
Okay. And what do you get?
148.5.
And how do we get year 3?
Times it by 1.05.
And what's 148.5 times 1.05?
150.
Go ahead. 150.9.
150 what?
55.9.
Okay. Got it. And then how do I get year 4?
Times by 1.02.
And what's 155.9 times 1.02?
159.
Okay, and how do I get your 5?
Times it by 1.02.
And what's 159 times 1.02?
162.2.
And how do I get your 6?
Times it by 1.01.
And what's 1.01 times 162.2?
163.8.
And what do we use that cash flow for?
The terminal value.
And how do we get the terminal value?
We take the terminal percentages and subtract them from each other. So 0.14 minus 0.01.
And that gives you,
0.13.
and what's 163.8 divided by 0.13?
$1,260,000,000.
Got it. And then what are these called?
Factors.
What kind of factors?
Discount factors.
Got it. And what's the discount factor? What's our discount rate?
12%, so 1 point,
12.
yeah.
To the what?
1.12 to the first power.
Got it. What's this one?
1.12 to the second power.
And what's this one?
1.12 to the third.
And this one?
1.12 to the fourth.
And this one?
1.12 to the fifth.
And what's this discount factor?
1.12.
And what's this one?
1.25.
And what's this one?
1.4.
And the fourth one?
1.57.
And the fifth one?
1.76.
And what's 137.5 divided by 1.12?
122.76.
Okay. And what is 148.5 divided by 1.25?
118.8.
And what is 155.9 divided by 1.4?
111.35.
And what's 159 divided by 1.57?
101.27.
And what is 162.2 divided by 1.76?
92.15.
And what do I divide the terminal value by?
1.76.
And what is 1260 divided by 1.76?
715.9.
And what's 715.9 plus 92.2 plus 101.3 plus 111.4 plus 118.8 plus 122.8?
I got 1262.28.
Okay. Did everybody else get that? Can you check that for me?
There yet. Is that 262.4?
I got 1262.3, could be 0.4 if you round up.
Okay, yes, that's what I got.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, I got that too.
Okay, what was the perpetuity?
1,146 mil.
And what was Gordon growth?
1,375 million.
And what was the gross rent multiplier?
1,250 million.
And DCF?
1,262
Yeah,
million.
got it. All right. So how did we get the multiple?
We took the percentage, the 12% that it gave us.
Got it. And I'm getting some higher numbers here. So what does that tell? What does that tell you about the multiple? Is it too high or too low?
Too low.
It's too low. So are the investors in the marketplace requiring a higher or a lower rate of return?
Higher rate of return?
So if I'm getting a higher rate of return, let's say, 15%, right? If they're using a higher discount rate, what does my multiple turn out to be?
You use a higher rate?
Well, you tell me. I mean, under the assumption here, my Gordon growth and my DCF are basically
Lower.
are higher than the multiple. So what's wrong with the multiple approach?
So the percentage is too
High.
It's too high. So the expected return in the marketplace by the investors are actually what? Higher or lower?
higher, or they're actually lower than the 12%.
Yeah, so that means that the project is what? Is it more or less risky?
More.
More risky.
How's that work? If the projects are of a higher risk, would I ask for a higher expected return or a lower expected return?
Lower expected return.
Well, if I'm getting higher risk, wouldn't I want to be compensated for that?
Yes.
Yeah, so if the project is of a higher risk, wouldn't I ask for a higher expected return?
Oh yeah, I guess.
So what is the market telling us about this project? Are the risks higher or lower?
The risk is lower.
And would the expected return be higher or lower?
Lower.
And if the expected return is lower, then the multiple is what? Higher or lower?
Higher because the denominator would be lower.
Exactly. So the project is actually of lower risk. So maybe the expected return is 10%, not 12%. What's my multiple?
10.
10 times. And if the multiple's higher, then what's the value?
Higher.
Higher. So the marketplace is actually thinking that this project is of lower risk than what we're expecting. So probably if more deals came out and we did more research, we'd probably figure out that our expected returns are too high.
If it was this multiple of 10, it would be a 1.5 mil. Or 1500.
Does that make more sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's the value of the project?
The development cost?
No, the value. What's your estimated value of this project? Using, well, what does the perpetuity assume?
constant.
Yeah, the cash flows are going to remain constant forever. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Does it?
I
That'll,
just don't know why we choose which one normally.
Do you think that the cash flows are going to grow in the future for
yeah.
the developments at Mission Bay, around UCSF, down the street from the ballpark, and up the street from the Chase Center?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So does the perpetuity approach make sense?
No.
No. Does the Gordon growth provide information?
Yes.
That's at a constant rate.
Exactly. And would the real estate cash flows grow at a constant rate?
Yes.
Yes. So that's a good one. What about the gross rent multiplier? Multiple approach. Is that reasonable?
With the number that was given, it was too low.
Yeah, but we figured out that that we overestimated the risk and the market mispriced it. We actually now know that the risk is less. Is it a risky project? Right next to UCSF, right across from the bay. You got
No.
Gilead, Pfizer, Genentech. You know, they're all there. You know, you got the Chase Center, you got the ballpark, you got the apartment developments, you got access to 280, 101. Is the project really that risky?
No.
Probably not. So if I lower the discount rate, what happens to the multiple?
It increases.
Got it. So is that a pretty good valuation?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And then what about the DCF?
It's pretty low.
Is it? Are these all pretty close to each other?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that a confirmation validation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
So what's your final intrinsic value? How much do you what do you think the value of the property is? Taking into consideration the information that's provided to you.
Easily the largest one.
Well, not necessarily.
I thought, I don't know. I was just thinking because of the location and all the reasons you threw at me.
Well, I mean, does the multiple approach provide you information?
I would say the Gordon growth one. It's kind of in the middle of those two.
That's one way to do it. You know, just pick the midpoint. Right? Just pick the average between the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, does Gordon growth provide you with some information?
Yeah.
Does the multiple provide you with some information?
Yeah.
Does the DCF provide you with some information?
Yeah.
So how do you blend the three together to come up with a point estimate?
Add them all.
The average.
You could average them if you wanted to. Could I calculate a weighted average? Like I did with the stock prices, could I do that? So what's your estimated value? So what's your estimated value?
Average.
Well, however you want to do it, just give me, you as the analyst have run the valuation models. They're each giving you some information. Now you have to come up with the point estimate.
Is this where we divvy them up by a percentage? Like one gets 3%, one gets 4% weighted, one gets 3%?
You could do it that way, or you could ballpark it, or you could take the midpoint, or you could take the average, or, you know, however you want to do it. You're the analyst. Just
I would do 1375.
Yeah, I was 1379, so I'm good with 75 too.
all right, excellent. So, how much is this thing going to cost to build?
1.5 billion.
What is it?
1.25 billion.
Okay, and if I subtract the estimated development cost from the estimated value. What does that give me?
125 million.
No, what does it give me? What are we calculating?
The net present value,
Got it. And what's the net present value?
125 million.
And is it positive or negative?
Positive, so we would accept.
Got it. Okay, but if I use the 1262, let's say, we decide that these aren't any good for some reason, and we end up with the 1262. Oops, I still get a positive net present value. Damn it.
Yeah, -1 would be the perpetuity.
Yeah, let's say we just get an estimated value of $1 billion. What's my net present value?
And -250.
Got it. And would I accept or reject?
Reject.
And if I really wanted the project, what would I do?
We would renegotiate a lower price.
And what amount?
So that way the net present value is 0 or
Yeah, what would be the amount?
262, like whatever that difference was.
Yeah, so I would ask for a cost reduction or price reduction in what amount?
250 million.
Got it. And if I could get a price or cost reduction in the amount of negative 250 million, my net present value would be what?
0.
Got it. And would I accept or reject?
Accept.
And then if I couldn't get the cost or price reduction and I still had a negative net present value, what would be the next thing that I do?
To review the assumptions.
And what would those assumptions that I would go back and look at again?
Terminal discount rate, development cost, growth rate, performance, terminal initial cash flow.
And then if I still get a negative net present value, what would I do?
Calculate the value of the cost option.
Is it called a cost option or a
All option.
call option? And what is the value of the real call option gotta be?
The binomial tree and the Black-Scholes.
Yeah, so that's what I would use to calculate the value of the real call option. But what is the value of the real call option gotta be?
Has to be equal to or above the NPV.
Correct. So if the value of the real call option is equal to the negative net present value, what's my net present value?
0.
And would I accept or reject?
Accept.
And if the value of the real call option was greater than the negative net present value, my net present value would be what?
Higher than 0.
Yeah, and would I accept or reject?
Accept.
And if the value of the real call option is less than the negative net present value, then my net present value is what?
Negative.
And would I accept or reject?
Reject.
Got it. Okay. That's it.
Woo!
Are we calling it?
Yeah, what we're gonna do, we're gonna call it, but I want you to look at something before until, before next week. Okay?
Okay.
I want you to read something for me. All right. All right. And then I need you to go back and study the investment decision-making matrix from page 1. Remember when I did the present value greater than the price, equal to the price, less than the price, NPV positive?
Yeah.
Yep. So go back and study that. And then I want you to go take a look at this presentation. Hold on.
The one from the beginning of class.
You can take a look at that one, but there's another one that I want you to look at.
Okay.
It's this one right here.
We see it. Okay.
Oh, sorry about that. Can you see that? You can see it?
Yeah.
Okay. So what I want to do is...
Professor, you put that on mall?
I did.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, let me just show you where it is. Bam. Okay, can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. It's this one right here.
Okay.
Right here. So I want you to read through that one, because what I'm going to do next week is I'm going to walk you through. This is the deal, you know, that I've been working on for about 10 years now. Is I get these clients, right, that call me up. This happens like every now and then, and they're going, Professor Souza, you know, I got a client. They own a bunch of real estate. They've held it, owned it for decades. They've completely depreciated the property. They're now getting slaughtered on taxes. They don't want to sell, because if they sell, they're going to have to pay capital gains, recapture tax, transfer tax. They're in their 80s. They don't want to manage the properties anymore. The kids are all lawyers and doctors and stuff, and they don't want to deal with the property anymore because they've seen dad, fall off the ladder, 6 times, and he comes home with, poop on his shoes from cleaning toilets, and we just don't want to deal with it we don't want to deal with that stuff. So, what are the options to get out of real estate without getting slaughtered by taxes? So me and one of my students spent about 3 months figuring out ways to get people out of real estate where they wouldn't get slaughtered by taxes. And then we put together this presentation. So I'll walk you through it next week. And I think that's the last part of the midterm.
Perfect.
Okay, and then what's really interesting too is you can get out of real estate, but you're going to have to give up something. Maybe control or something. But the ideal exit from real estate is you set up an irrevocable trust. You throw the properties in the trust. You may actually go ahead and do a 1031 exchange, and I'll explain that later, into other properties to defer the taxes. You can set up a property management business and hire a bunch of people to manage the properties for you. And then the ultimate is you throw it in an irrevocable trust and you die. And then then the properties go to your heirs at a stepped up basis, no taxes. And if you set up a irrevocable life insurance trust with a ton of life insurance, the life insurance will pay off all the debt on the properties, and your heirs will get all of the property tax-free and debt-free. It's kind of cool, but you got to die.
Nice.
Yeah, and there's some other methods that we found too that work. They're a little exotic. Some people have used them, but really, at the end, it's really death and taxes that you can't avoid at the end of the day. So if you set it up correctly for your heirs, they'll be taken care of the rest of their lives. Everybody will be taken care of forever if you do it the right way. If you don't do it the right way, then they're not going to get it, and then you screwed it up. Okay, and that'll be kind of my last lecture.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and then I will have taken you through pretty much everything that I've wanted to take you through over the semester. and more.
Thank you for doing so, especially with the new class arrangement. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope it worked out for you guys.
Absolutely, I think so.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, you guys. I'm also gonna